Welcome back to Making Money Matter, ladies and gentlemen. Truth Bomb Tony's back. Sorry, we've been absent for a little while, but both Tony and I have been a little bit busy. There's been the Gold Conference, there's been Resources Rising Stars, and for me, I did a couple of Infinity property events straight after. So I haven't stopped. I'm sure Tony hasn't stopped. And the market, of course, it keeps on going, but it's still a tough market that we're going into at the moment. Today, as I talked to Tony, the US has announced a 50 basis points drop in their interest rates. Bit lackluster in the markets, but it's early days. How is this going to play out? I'm seeing China is going to slow down. Iron ore prices are pulling back. That could be quite interesting for Australia in the long term. But what I also see is that the gold price is staying strong at 25.75 US as I speak to Tony at the moment. But the gold miners, they're just disconnected still. What does that mean? Look, not financial advice, but there are opportunities. But with opportunities comes risk, and you've got to be aware of those risks. That's why I always ask Tony to come on and give us his views. Now, Tony was a keynote speaker at our recent Australian Gold Conference. If you were there, thank you so much for the support. If you weren't there, you better be back next year, October 13 to 15 in Sydney. And for the first time, haven't even announced it yet, don't even have the website going, but we are going to be doing, Tony, you don't even know this, Gold Coast Gold. Gold Coast Gold will be on the 27th of March at QT in Surfers Paradise next year, a one-day conference after a lot of people up here on the Gold Coast, which is where I now live, have been saying to me, why don't you do one on the Gold Coast? Well, announcement right now, we will, 27th of March next year. So, Tony, with that, welcome back.
Oh, awesome. I think it was about the 13th of August last time we probably released something.
Probably.
So that's been a while. As you mentioned, I was keynote speaker at your conference. And then I was
people loved it.
I put up about 6 slides and totally winged it. And I just think, well, it needed a bit of a lighter touch.
Yeah.
But we got that at the dinner. Vince Sorrenti, best comedian I've ever seen. He was on fire.
He was fabulous. For those that came to the dinner, gosh, we had a good time. And congratulations to our winners, Tony. Simon Lawson from Spartan Resources had the honor of getting the Gavin Thomas Mining Award. Ronnie Stofley from In Gold Incrementum, who published the In Gold We Trust report, the Maggie Bullion Award, and the wonderful David Ransom from formerly with Acorn Capital, who's been in the market for decades. And our hearts go out to him. He has motor neurone disease, so he couldn't travel up to the event. But the James Dines Hall of Fame, very well deserved, went to David Ransom. And I think it's a remarkable achievement for each and every one of those people, because each of them have contributed a lot to this industry. I mean, for example, at Resources Rising Stars last year, you were the one that picked Spartan Resources, and I think the share price at that time was about 12, 13 cents. And today I think it's sitting at $1.28. So it's over $1 billion market cap. That was a good pick, Tony.
It pretty much 13 bagged.
Yes.
And actually a client rang me. He rang me and said, can you sell my Spartan, which I think he paid 11.5 cents for. And I was there at your conference feeding the stock out. And from about a 33 grand investment, he sold it for $412,000. Yeah, it was May last year I picked it up.
Yep.
And unfortunately, what happens is when these opportunities arise, I saw this as being another Dominion. Dominion went from 28 cents to $6.79.
Wow.
And that was a case of having a plant, some gold, and a load of tax losses. And I saw the same thing with, it was called Gascoigne at the time. Simon Lawson was onto that discovery. I think they were about 300,000 ounces at the time.
Yep.
And this thing's just powered on. Never Never, and now Pepper. And
yeah,
the main regret is not going harder. So I put it out there, but clients want to punch me. at the time. They wanted to punch me at the time. So yeah, I had quite a few do well, but you know, these are the gems you can pick up at a conference.
It's absolutely true. But, you know, Tony, the other thing is you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. And
Oh,
I
very.
personally don't think now is the time to fold them with Spartan. I think that Simon Lawson is a very smart operator. A lot of M&A activity is going to happen. Now, whether Spartan's going to be gobbled up by somebody else, I don't know. But he's the sort of guy that will bring this into production. He doesn't need it to be taken out.
Yeah, well, at the time, May last year, I thought this worst case scenario is a 40-50 cent takeout proposition.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it just went through that. And I walked around the conference. I sat in on a lot of presentations. I've probably just absorbed 75 presentations. And
Yeah.
and I chaired one up on the Gold Coast as well. So it's, you're trying to listen, absorb, and I'm thinking, where's the next Spartan? And I've found that a lot of the stories, some of them were beaten up lithium stocks.
Yeah.
And lithium's tanked. So some of the stocks have been horrendous. Then we had a bit of a run into niobium. Now it's antimony. And there's been companies pulling out historical data and rock chips on antimony, a little bit of drilling. But how long can this last is the key. And I've noticed that, why not let's just have a traditional gold and silver bubble? As I look, silver's trading at $30.80 US. Gold, as you mentioned, 2575. Gold speculators, to steal a term from Lara Bingle, where the bloody hell are you? Because in 79.80, gold stocks went parabolic.
Exactly.
And that's really the last true gold bubble.
And you know what, Tony? I don't think people remember this. And I often say it. Ray Dalio says it. Frank Giustra says it. You said it. Ladies and gentlemen, you just have to look at history. And what Tony just said is the last time this happened was in the 70s. We're setting ourselves up for, I think, and again, it's not financial advice, but I think this is what we're coming towards. We're coming towards another opportunity in those gold and silver equity markets that people are just, be a contrarian investor, but it's that first move, isn't it, Tony? It's that first wave where people are going, well, who's going to go first? I don't want to go first until I start to see some movement. But actually, if you look at projects and people, you should be okay. But those, I think, and jurisdiction to a certain extent as well. But I think people, because you can have the best project in the world, but if you've got the wrong people, and case in point, Simon Lawson's turned that project around, right person for the job. There are other instances where we've got gold projects that have gone into care and maintenance, purely a number of factors, but people are a part of that factor.
Oh, of course. And what I've done is identified my 4 pillars, as I call it.
4 pillars
the 4
or
pillars,
4 companies?
4 companies, 4 pillars to build a speculative portfolio around.
Okay.
And there's always going to be higher risk opportunities that will give more of an adrenaline rush. But I'd rather stick to fundamentals, stick to people, and wait and see. So 2 of them, which were at your conference, Saturn Metals, Ian Bamborough, fantastic presentation.
Well, not only a fantastic presentation, good jurisdiction, good management. I mean, Ian is a rock solid, excuse the pun, ladies and gentlemen, but he's a rock solid custodian of shareholder wealth and making sure that he's just getting the foundations right for future success.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, I looked at the stock today and it's around 25 cents. I was just involved in a capital raising at 16.5. I don't want this to run away just yet. Ian went to Beaver Creek and put out a presentation, which I thought was first class, because at spot prices, that project has an NPV over $1 billion and a payback period of 1.6 years. And Australians don't understand heap leach, but it's in one pit, low strip, and can be done fairly cheaply. So again,
so let me stop you for a second. So
Yeah.
you explain heap leach and why don't, if Australians don't understand it, let's just give them a quick education. Can we do that?
well, the gold's extracted through acid and reagents, so that's how it's done. It's a bit different from the traditional gold mills here, but a fair chunk of the world's gold production is done via heap leach, and the grade is 0.54 grams per ton. And the argument is grade is king. Well, you can make money out of low grade deposits as long as it's got the right number of ounces per vertical meter and low strip. You don't have to move a lot of dirt to get to the gold. And a lot of it's in quartz, and it can be easily extracted. Forgive
And
me.
by the way, sorry to interrupt you again, but ladies and gentlemen, low strip just means the amount of waste you have compared to the ore that can be extracted, the gold that gets extracted. Correct, Tony?
That's right. That's right. It's not related to a fiery marriage or a boring marriage where there's low strip ratio. I mean, that's.
Oh, I
That's a marriage.
apologize, ladies and gentlemen. What can
That's a
I
long-term
say?
marriage. Yeah.
But-
So I lost.
So one of the things that we saw at the Australian Gold Conference this year, Tony, was we did this free event on the Monday where we explained different ways of getting access to gold. What it showed me was the number of people that have no understanding. So one of the things I thought for the rest of this year, part of next year, is during our chats, just to help educate people about things like strip ratio, heap leach, just because every time they listen, they're going to learn a little bit and learn a little bit more, because I think that's really important. The amount of people that have exposure to either physical or less with gold equities is very, very small. But I think the opportunity is coming where people really need to understand that there are opportunities. So I want to educate them. And I always say, don't sell your house and your children, but have some exposure to precious metals. So when we're chatting, Tony, I'd just like to explain a couple of things when you're chatting.
Well, what I found at your conference was I have a shaved head. The male pattern bald index was still high.
Yes.
They're the same characters. We need an injection of youth, and I'm not talking about Botox, because high share prices tend to attract more people.
Yes.
And we, Headley Widder did a great high tea on the Gold Coast. And can you believe small cap stocks in the mining sector have dropped 75% in 2 years?
Yeah.
That's absolute carnage. And I'm in my third year of the shittiest bear market for small cap stocks. And it's like being sandpapered to death. So there's no hype around gold juniors. We need a big discovery. We need more corporate activity. You can buy ounces in the ground very cheap. So I see another.
When you say that, Tony, what do you mean by you can buy ounces? Again, people don't understand it when you use that technology, that terminology.
Well, if you're capped at $100 million and you have 2 million ounces, the EV is $50 an ounce.
Right.
And some of these companies were trading at $20 an ounce, thereabouts, which was Saturn when it was on its knees at 12.5, 13 cents. That's ridiculous. I know that Ramilius paid, I think, $167 an ounce to take over Apollo, which has the Rebecca project. Okay. So these companies, rather than drill it out and have to go through all that, they will come in and pick up the ounces on the cheap. So yeah, enterprise values are some of the lowest I've ever seen, with the gold price just off record highs. It just makes no sense because we don't have FOMO. We don't have the younger generation flipping gold and silver stocks on their mobile phones. It's the hype's miles away. And I remember back when you held these conferences at Luna Park. Geez, they were brilliant. The room was full and it was buzzing.
That was 2011. There was a lot of
2011. Yeah. Yeah, and I managed to, John Embry, Eric Sprott. I mean, that was awesome. They're legends. But I just think it's hard to get younger people interested in gold and silver. They'll go buy, there's 22,000 shit coins around, and they'll trade them.
No,
They're
Tony, they're
trading.
too busy buying, going and spending their money on Uber. Look, I'm not going to diss them because we did have some young people at this year's conference. It was wonderful to see. And you said the male pattern bald index was quite high. Actually, I saw a number of younger demographics coming for the first time this year. And don't forget, we had a bunch of students at the conference, and I just heard back, which is really interesting, from the woman that organized it all. She said the teachers went away on a high and said they want to be back next year, but they want to spend more time because they didn't spend enough time around the booths getting to understand it. So Sophie thinks we're going to get a lot of teachers. Imagine, Tony, the teachers understand and start getting excited about stuff. And look, I've often said it, gold is money, everything else is credit. And we just have to have a look at what's going on with governments around the world. They will keep printing the paper, and you cannot print gold. And the last thing just to say is, you mentioned that the gold price was $25.75 US. It's 3,787 Australian per ounce. Now, the companies that are in production, they're all in sustaining costs. That means what it costs them to pull that gold out of the ground. I think the highest I've seen in all in sustaining costs is about $1,750. That means at $3,786 an ounce, they're making a lot of cash.
Yeah, you'll start to see them hedge as well now, I feel.
Yeah.
Just to lock in that price. But yeah, you're right about the youth. It's like getting a minibus and transporting pensioners to the poker machines and the roast beef. If that's what you got to do, you got to do it. And that's the way. And you said that it paid off. So again, there was actually I think the kid was 15, who's right into it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That was really good, because my 16-year-old gets life lectures, and we talk about stocks. We talk about drilling programs. We talk about what they've found, and he's interested.
Yeah. And that 15-year-old won a prize, which is even better. His whole face lit up in the whole place. Yeah. It was great.
But they might think that investment's uncool, but holy, at 30, you're still young. Wouldn't you rather have a financial grounding than pissing all your money up the wall? And that's what a lot of the younger generation do. So yeah, that was fantastic. So a great event. The vibe actually was better than last year.
Yeah, I agree.
I noticed the change.
Yeah.
And I've come away. Actually, I'll give out the 4 pillars again.
Yeah.
So Maronan, MMA, Saturn, STN, Red Metal, RDM, and Oryaman, AUN. So these are the 4 junior companies that we're set in, and we just have to set and forget. And I was saying to a client today in Saturn, sometimes these stocks, you're best to forget you own it.
Yeah.
You're either in prison with no Wi-Fi, or you're in a coma, because a lot of you can't hold, because we've got so much access, social media and share prices, and you'll see something double. It's like people that bought Northern Star at 5 cents and thought they were champions at 10, and the thing goes over $15. Admittedly, I wrote a research report on them at 6.3 cents in May 2010. So that's how long it got into the teens earlier. And you have to have that. You just can't, if you've got the sports bet mentality around the market, there's no such thing as an excellent poker machine player or a person that bets on the horses. They're going to have some mighty big losses, and you get the same in the market. So I'm trying to stabilize my client base, say, look, these are 4 quality stocks. Go along for the journey.
No, what my audience will want to know, our audience will want to know, is why those 4? There's hundreds in the market. By the way, again, ladies and gentlemen, it's not financial advice. But what I want to ask Tony is, What is it about those four that attracted you? Because I think that's a good understanding for them, whether it's your four or anything that they look at. What were the things that attracted you? Was it management? Was it jurisdiction? Was it ounces in the ground? Give us why you like those four.
Well, Maronan Red Metal is all about Rob Rutherford. Rob floated Red Metal in 2001. That company's been listed 23 years and only has 300 million shares on issue. He wants to be a small company with a big share price. They had an alliance with Oz Minerals, which is now BHP. They had the Maronan deposit, which they spun out into Maronan Metals. And apart from one slightly disappointing set of drilling results, that thing's powering ahead. We've got two 30 million tonne resources pretty much next to each other, and they are a sitting duck for corporate activity. The stock's cheap. And so it's a combination.
By corporate activity, you're saying somebody's going to come and grab it, and a bigger company will come in and pay a premium.
Unfortunately, yeah, unless I can get off the canvas. I think the ASX has tightened the reporting. So you have to have a certain amount of resources from inferred to indicated, and that costs money. So they're currently drilling, there's got results coming to get that resource into inferred, and then they can put out a scoping study and move towards a pre-feas or feasibility study.
Okay, so
then the value will be more obvious.
Scoping study is just the economics of the project.
Yep.
In what is it? We've got inferred
to indicated, which means you have to tighten up the drill spacing. You have to drill more, less. Sometimes companies will drill 200 by 200. You've got to drill a lot more, and that costs millions of dollars, but it allows companies to show the value of that resource, potential cash flow. Saturn put out an economic study on Apollo Hill that looks fantastic, and then ran that presentation at Beaver Creek. Again, looks great, undervalued. You've got about 2 million ounces, 74 million market cap. They're drilling. I mean, the EV could come down to about $25 an ounce, currently sitting about 37. And good management keeps a tight share structure.
Yeah.
And that is key. They don't blow out with options, and they do their placements it goes to strength. It doesn't go to weak hands.
Right.
Oryaman, Brad Valukas used to work for Northern Star. He helped with the Pogo mine in Alaska. He's been up against it. He's extinguished a nasty con note. He's now got 946,000 ounces of gold, plus he's got 6 kilometers discontinuous DSO potential iron ore. So that adds another element to that company. And
DSO, just again, sorry to keep interrupting you, but this is the feedback.
Oh, please interrupt.
DSO just means direct shipping ore, ladies and gentlemen. It just means they're going to pick it up, put it on the ship, send it off. But you mentioned iron ore, Tony. The iron ore price, it's softening a lot. So I don't know where that's going at the moment, but I'm a bit cautious on iron ore at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a set of steak knives. It's a bonus. It's a bonus, and we've already seen corporate activity in Sandstone with Bright Star and Alto Metals, no relation to Alto Capital.
Right.
So corporate activity, Alex Rivera, I think the son of Tony Rivera.
Correct.
Oh, Azua, what a story. So he's looking to consolidate, and I think you're going to see more consolidation. And they're my four. Obviously, we have some stocks around that, and you've got your exploration stories. You've got companies now that are trading close to cash backing.
Yep. Solstice being one of them. When I was up at Resources Rising Stars, I chatted to Solstice. They've got 18 million in the bank and market cap of 18 mil. I don't know what they are.
Oh, they're up 30-40% since Resources Rising Stars. Yeah, that sucks. It sucks. The 18-cent cheapies disappeared like a burp in the wind. But that's run by Nick Castleton, who ran Apollo, which got taken out by Ramilius.
Yeah.
So yeah, they look great. And you just gotta stick to it. I was approached a few times around the conferences, which was good. I see the same people for many years. But again, we need new investors. They'll come once share prices start to run, and once you get a taste of FOMO, it's going to be on for young
Like
and old.
Kong. On like
Oh,
Donkey
it just happens, and I'm due for something to happen. It's just been a tough 3 years, and some viewers might say you're saying the same crap, but I don't deviate much. I identify the quality companies, and being real, it's the slow going.
It's
You
a
know, they
slow
didn't
burn
go.
in the mining sector. You don't
Oh,
just turn it on. You don't.
and,
And you know what, Tony? When
yep.
your Uber driver is telling you what stocks to buy, that's when you get out. No one's talking at the moment. No one's even talking around the barbecue at the moment. Nobody cares. That's when you have to start to have a look. But be careful, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before we finish up, Tony, I just want to ask you one of the other areas, commodities, if you like, that I like, especially as we go into this, if you like, forced electric EV revolution, because it feels very forced, is copper. There's
Yep.
been no major copper discoveries. The copper price has not risen that much, but I think that there's some really interesting projects, and I think people should sit up and, I love gold and silver. I am that gold lady, but I think copper is going to come to the fore as well, unloved at the moment.
Oh yeah, and you can go through the explorers, but a lot of I mean, I was involved in two stocks that pretty much 10 bagged and change. One was Eagle Mountain, the other one being Stavely. And they've had issues, but both of those companies have been absolutely poleaxed.
Yeah,
And CYM, Cyprium as well. So some of these copper companies have faltered share price wise, and you just got to do your research. But a lot of the world's copper is 4,000 meters above sea level at about 1%. So you're going to see moves to Chile, Argentina, the belts in Africa. So it's, you've got jurisdiction risk, but as a bull market takes shape, the last frontier is going to be the moon or deep sea mining.
absolutely. But
Which just adds to the bullshit factor, which is the speculative market, and that's the game we play, unfortunately.
it is the game we play. You mentioned Cyprium Metals. I remember when they had a market cap of a few hundred mil, and their market cap today is probably about less than 50. What's happened there? Their share price about 3 cents, at one
Well,
stage.
they had to recapitalize, which is a shame. I'm not 100% sure on the mining difficulties they've had, resource difficulties, but sometimes great looking projects on paper can run into problems.
Okay.
And the key to speculation is take a portfolio approach, because not every company is going to pay off. You might buy 10 stocks, three might do well, four might just go sideways to slightly up, and you might have one go into admin, or a couple seriously underperform. And that's the nature of this game, because a lot of what's happening is out of our control, because there's no interest. Companies are forced to raise money at cheap prices to people that will sell the headstock and keep the options. And they're forced to give these sweeteners to raise the money.
Yeah,
and a lot of the players in the junior market are only getting a crack at these companies because of the low prices. Generally, they wouldn't be near these stocks. So it's just an S-bend cycle that hopefully we can get out of. And whilst my four companies mightn't cause a lot of excitement, I'm not expecting them to cause too much anxiety. And that's the key. So it's fascinating times, but there's always opportunity, and hopefully we can provide a bit of an education along the way.
Tony, it's always a pleasure to speak to you, and I always ask you this as we go. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, it's not such a crazy time in the next, as we lead up to the end of the year, so I will have Tony on a bit more often. So watch this space. But as I like to finish these up, Tony, as always, give us 3 things people should be doing right now as we're heading into the end of September. Can you believe it?
Well, unbelievable. For starters, put those 4 companies on your watch list, read their quarterly reports,
Yep.
get to know them.
Yep.
Unfortunately, as I said, Saturn's had a bit of a run, but I still think it's cheap. And what I tend to do from time to time is run through the entire mining page. You have to go and blow it up on a photocopier and just mark a few companies and have a look at them. So research. And then I think another thing viewers can do is start to educate their kids on dollar cost averaging. So find a way to get them to dollar cost average. And my other suggestion is get rid of sugar, processed carbohydrates, and give up alcohol, because I'd like to say that you look fantastic.
Oh,
I can't believe how healthy you look, and you're on the health kick, and it's going well for you, Kerry. So don't stop. Don't stop.
Yeah, well,
And
I found a great gym on the Gold Coast called Milan. Shout out to Milan, they're wonderful. And yeah, every morning I'm there at 6 a.m. Giving it a good shot. And it's over a kilometre up the road, so I walk there and I walk back and I do my workout. But you know, living on the coast, healthy.
you don't look a day over 40, Kerry. You're doing exceptionally well.
I love you. Now, just before we finish, ladies and gentlemen, the next place, it's kind of like where's Wally, where's Kether. The next time you will find me will be at the IMARC conference, which is in Sydney at the ICC from I think it's the 29th to the 31st of October. So I will be down there. I'll be moderating a breakfast and I will be moderating a session at IMARC, and I'll also be doing a full day of interviews during the conference. So it'll be a very busy time, but this is one of the largest mining events. It's not just companies, it's equipment, it's everything. Are you going to that? Probably not, are you? Not
No, I think I'm conferenced out for now.
Yeah, well, don't forget next year, I want you back at the Gold Conference, October 13 to 15. Put that in your diary. That's a can't miss. And if you feel like coming over to the Gold Coast, come over at the end of March.
All righty then.
Okay, mate. Great to see you. Talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Look forward to it.
Thanks, Tony.